Hello and welcome to Artwork, a conversation with creative people about the joys, the challenges and the mundane moments of living an artistic life. We're your hosts, I'm Poppy Rose.
And I'm Brie Robertson.
And we have two artists today, Katherine and Marcus from the band Bitter Trick. I met Katherine and Marcus at Leeds College of Music, and I was the backing singer / theremin player / percussionist / backing dancer for their project Katerina, and it was so much fun. A few years later, when Brie and I were touring, we crashed on their couch in Leeds multiple times, and they hosted a wonderful living room concert for us. We go way back.
More recently, they've spent time performing commercially on Brittany Ferries and in a hotel in Thailand. They talk about their experience in the episode, offering some practical ideas and insight for artists wanting to work on commercial cruises or in hotels around the world.
While working abroad, Katherine and Marcus had the opportunity to reflect on the music they wanted to create, resulting in a complete rebrand. Their new project, Bitter Trick, is an indie pop duo whose latest single, Say No, was recently chosen as the BBC Introducing Song of the Week for Lincolnshire. The song is about having the strength to stick up for what you believe in and addressing accountability in everyday encounters. And their new EP, Climb, is coming soon.
In this episode, we talk about recognising and embracing our core values, honing professional persistence and consistency, Katherine and Marcus's perspective on rebranding themselves in a way that feels more honest, and developing a healthy work-life balance, especially when your creative project partner is also your life partner.
So let's dive in. Welcome to the Artwork podcast. It's so lovely to have you here, and you've become like such dear friends to me as well as Poppy, from having us crash at your house when we've been on tour. And one of our craziest memories of being on tour was when we played at the venue Oporto in Leeds.
Yeah, that was ace.
And then we just partied all night. And Poppy and I had to catch a bus at 5 a.m. 4 or 5. It was ridiculous, yeah. And we woke up and we were so hungover and we were like, do we pay 25 euros for a later bus? No, come on, we've got to do it. Yeah, I think hangovers didn't really affect me in those days. I feel like if I did that now, I would be absolutely gone. I would be paying 100 euros for another bus. I could not.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. But I had mad respect for you at the time. I was like, go girls, like you go get your bus.
You just like took a banana and went on your way.
We are interviewing you as Bitter Trick Band, and this is a really new project for you guys.
Yeah.
So before we kind of talk about the journey that has brought you to this point, we'd love to just hear a little bit of background of what you've done in the past, and especially like the stuff that you've done with Poppy. You guys have done so much with music in the past, and we'd love to hear a little bit about the beginnings for you.
Definitely. Yeah, so when we first met I guess I was in like first year of uni, we both met in Leeds College of Music. That was where we met Poppy as well. And we started doing like an electronic project because that's what we were both kind of into, and nobody else was really as much like into that stuff like that. So we started doing electronic music together, and we went right into gigging and really got stuck in the local scene. We recruited Poppy as our one of our backing singers, which was so cool. It was really nice. We had actually like a 5-piece band that we gigged with. That was so cool. Yeah, it was a really different thing to I guess what we're doing now.
It was called Katerina, and it was very like spacey. We all wore like white and like silver makeup, and like it was such a, you were such a character on stage, and it was such a show, So what was it like to like where did this character come from of and what made you decide to be like, we're gonna make this project be really separate from who we are as people?
Because it started off as it was obviously a joint project, but it was like I was the face of it at the beginning.
Yeah, I think for me, I was at a specific time in my life where I really wasn't interested in being like in the like limelight or anything. I was very interested in just kind of being in private. And like because obviously we'd done stuff before, and I'd done like solo stuff, and like I used to go out a lot and busk like you guys, and I think I was at a specific time in my life where I just wanted to kind of just do stuff and just be in the background. So we kind of agreed that Katherine was going to be like the main person.
Yeah, I think I was trying to channel this character that was very like strong and confident and sassy and like, yeah, so I wanted to be this kind of strong character who didn't take anyone's shit, and she was just like storming through life. But I think it hit at a really hard time in my life where I did not feel like that at all in my personal life, and I was kind of like, I think it made it much more difficult to carry on the days that I was struggling personally, and I was supposed to come out and be this big character and everything, and I wanted to continue to kind of be on social media and do stuff and be present, and I knew all of those things that I had to do, but I didn't feel like I could a lot of the time because I felt like I needed to have this like bougie lifestyle as well. I kind of like threw myself in at the top end, being like, oh, I wear like beautiful tailored suits and like go to cocktail bars and stuff, and I had no money, and I was just
Yeah.
a sad student. So I kind of crashed myself there in that sense. But in another sense, I think I was really embracing being a writer as opposed to just a performer. So I really wanted to practice writing from another perspective and go into like maybe someone who I hoped I was more than just who I am. So it sort of came from there.
Yeah, we got to channel like a different side to writing, because there's the side which is what I feel comes natural to most, which is you write about something that's happened to you, like a breakup or something like that, or a personal experience. But it gave us an opportunity to delve into like sort of the third person almost, in terms of like, we're creating a concept, we're creating a song, and this is the topic. And that was always quite interesting as well.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be really cool, because I've always really stuck to like the folk singer-songwriter. Everything is very personal and very like heart on the sleeve. But I have this other side of me that studied theatre that would really enjoy being able to write like theatrical songs with alter egos or characters that is not me. And it must be really interesting to see what comes out when you're writing from a different perspective.
Yeah, it's really interesting for sure.
We had a lot of fun with those shows. Like I played a bit of theremin and a bit of percussion as well, and we did like dances, me and Holly. It was honestly like some of my absolute treasured memories of Leeds, being a part of your band.
Yeah, and it was definitely for me as well. Like it was such a big part of like I felt like I was doing the right thing, in terms of I wanted to be a performer and I wanted to be an artist, and that's what I wanted to do ultimately. So,
but it was I think for both of us, like an opportunity to be an artist in like many ways, like not just in the songs, but we also managed to like everything was a creative process, and that's kind of where we're at now, isn't it? Like all the stage and like all of the sort of like, like you said, like the bit of the choreography and like little bits of and all the costumes and outfits were like part of the like project. Like it wasn't just like we're writing some songs.
Yeah, I guess that's something that hasn't changed with the new project, is that we still do everything ourselves, and I think there's a lot of value in that, because like we had loads of fun, like like I feel like me and you, Poppy, and Holly went like shopping to find like cool clothes for you to wear on stage, and we had this very like tailored look that we did, and we it was really fun to style that. It was fun to like, I'm a designer as well, so it's fun to do all of the like art and kind of work on bits of photography and stuff. But it was I think that all got to a point where it felt like a struggle. It was a really great like project, and it was the beginnings of what we do now, and we learned so much as well. Like I think that especially with performance, like on stage, we just grew so much as performers, and I hope that it did that for you as well, Poppy. I mean, I feel like you did an awesome job as well.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed, because I've also been like this, like all my songs are very personal and very very raw. So for me, it was really fun to like also channel that other character on stage and to be a part of that. And I still have the little top that I wore. I still have that hanging up in my wardrobe. And I look at it from time to time, like, oh, remember those days when we could like go to like do gigs and be backstage, and oh, it was all so much fun, honestly.
And I think for anyone, being able to look back on the different creative projects that you do and kind of reflect on it and see, I learned things and that worked for me, that didn't really work for me, and so we're gonna like merge and mold into something else. I think that's a really amazing part of the creative life, and it's so cool that you guys have been able to like kind of close the chapter and start something new, because I would say probably a lot of people don't do that. They get stuck in a brand that maybe they've started for themselves, or stuck in a genre of music that they've, you know, maybe gained some notoriety in, and then it's like, okay, can I change? Can I do something different? And the process of that shift, which we're really excited to talk to you guys about in a little bit. But first of all, before Bitter Trick Band came into reality, you guys have had a little adventure abroad, right?
Yep.
What I've heard is maybe that you were singing on ships.
Basically, what happened to us was essentially we were living in Leeds, and you know, we were spending so much money on rent that, like, I even hate to think about how much money I would have if I just found, you know, managed to just like keep all of that rent money.
I feel like I added it up one time and it was like enough to buy the flat that we lived in.
Don't worry about it. It's okay. Don't think about it.
It was a pretty sweet flat though, to be fair.
Yeah, it was a good flat, but it was, I think it was
nice.
quite expensive because we were like living quite close, like quite central to a lot of the stuff in Leeds, and we didn't drive or anything. So we kind of, you know, like for gigs and stuff, we like to be like close to stuff.
Yeah, and just to like add to that, like we as well as doing like our personal projects, like performing as Katherine and now as Bitter Trick, like we were doing and would still be doing, I suppose, a lot of function music. So that's where you like go and play at a restaurant, or
playing at bars and restaurants and
weddings, all that kind of stuff.
Earn some money.
Yeah, and so we had to be in the centre, which meant we had to pay that
a
money
little bit more,
for rent, and then we had to earn more to pay for the flat, and so we kind of got stuck in a cycle.
Yeah, that's it. That's what ended up happening was we were like working to live or living to work, which is the one, I don't know. We were like
to survive.
Yeah, but like it was like we'd obviously been like needing to keep up like earning, so we'd be just spending all of our time working, and then it was like, hang on, this isn't working because we don't have any savings. We don't really have the time to, you know, work on the things that matter to us, like our music project.
Yeah.
So we made the decision to move out, and because we'd been doing like function stuff, you know, bars and restaurants already, we were able to kind of get onto some of the like international contracts. So like we went to work for Brittany Ferries. So they are like a ferry company that sail between England and France on repeat. So we went to work for them for a little while.
So we were doing like a duo of function music, just like covers and
just like stuff. Party pop hits.
Like. And it was honestly such a blessing. Like that ship in particular, we had such a lovely entertainment manager who like oversees your performances and stuff. And he was very chill. And we had like, we didn't even have a day off, but I didn't really notice on that one because again, like I feel like in Leeds we have been working like, when I say not even like more than full time, like I was working we were both working day jobs and then also gigging at night. So, and I didn't realize how crazy that was until I stepped away from it and was like, this is insane. I'm like driving myself into the ground, and I was always getting sick and always like, I just felt like I was in this cycle.
Yeah, like I never saw you either.
Yeah, we never saw each other. We lived in the same flat, and I would like at the end of the week, I would be like, I feel like I haven't seen you all week, and it was genuinely like on a personal level, it's just really like miserable, just a miserable way to live.
So we basically jumped at the chance to be able to kind of the main benefit was, you know, obviously it's nice to see other countries and everything, but we had a lot of spare time all of a sudden. So we were like, right, we're earning just as much money or more money than we were.
We're not spending any.
We're not spending any because we don't have to pay for any food. We don't have to like
pay for accommodation,
pay for like rent or anything.
Yeah.
So we were like, right, this is a real opportunity to like save some money and also begin to like spend more time on our musical project, Katherine at the time. And then, so that was the main pull. And then obviously we did that, and then we went to Thailand. Went straight to Thailand, right?
Went straight to Thailand,
pretty much. And we lived there for like 6 months, I think 7 months, working for TUI, the the holiday company. So we were working in like a hotel, and it was like a beautiful part of like southern Thailand, and we got to like experience just heat. It was very inspirational time, and so we were set to kind of come home in about April, May or something, and then go directly to America to work for Carnival Cruises, which is a cruise ship company. But then obviously that didn't happen because the whole world shut down.
I remember when I was younger, I always had a dream to be a jazz singer on a cruise ship. And there have been so many times in my life where I've started researching the process of singing on a ship or singing in places like with holiday companies. And then for some reason, I never finished the application, or I got a little bit nervous about what would be expected of me and kind of didn't go through with it. So I just wondered, like, what was your experience like, or what would you kind of recommend for artists to kind of have in place before they would apply for something like that?
So if you are somebody who doesn't already do covers, learn some. is the like, in terms of like, obviously for us, we weren't going out doing Bitter Trick songs. We were doing like I said, party pop and like 80s, and even some like a very mixed popular music from like the past 100 years.
Some of the minimum requirements are around like 200 minimum songs.
Wow.
On your repertoire. But I would also advise like putting together a list of songs that you can do. It adds up pretty quickly, especially if you already do covers. Like, don't be too put off by that. It sounds like a big number, but if you already do covers and you're doing like 2-hour sets places, you'll know more than you think. And then I'd add to it what you don't have, add it up to 250, and then just start learning them. And you can continue to rehearse and stuff while you're there as well. Like, that's one of kind of the requirements for a lot of them. They put it in the contract, like, keep learning new stuff as well. So it's not like so daunting when you think of it like that.
Yeah.
And then the other thing to have is a show reel. That's a big one.
Yeah, somebody basically just somebody to film you doing it, like a high quality. Sorry, somebody to film you singing your covers. It's just like, like, I think because as musicians we're very like, we've obviously worked really hard to to learn an instrument in the first place and everything. It kind of feels like, why should I have to like prove myself? And it's like, you have to remember that it's just some casting person in an office somewhere, and it's not like they're not trying to insult you or anything, but they need to see like high quality like video of you doing it.
Yeah.
And I guess a bit of tech knowledge, so basic mixing desk skills, learning how to like EQ yourself, and maybe like just get used to like live mixing. I think those are the main things, right?
Yeah, I think so. Some places, I mean, I'd say as well, like with anything that you want to do, like find your dream job in that area, look at their requirements, have those, and then apply for that, and then apply for like all the ones that aren't your dream one, but like they're also on par with it, or they're like not quite as good. But I think it is also one of those things where they like you to have done stuff before. So it really helped for us to get on those Brittany Ferry contracts.
Yeah, the smaller ones,
kind of ferries and stuff like that. And then, because especially the cruise industry, I would say, is quite like prestigious. Like a lot of those applications will be asking you like where you've played before, that's like a really
Yeah,
good
we
start.
got declined loads.
Yeah.
But because we'd applied to like literally everything,
Everything on
something
the
came
internet,
in, and then
yeah.
we had to experiment.
And then when we'd been to Thailand and done that was a really good foot in the door. And then we found that we got quite a few offers after that. So
going to an agent as well.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
A lot of these companies don't work directly with people, so you have to like find some sort of agent who
books for them.
Yeah.
But
it's like once you've got these things, you just send them off to the like.
Yeah.
You've got this. Yeah. I've got it.
So what are some of the pros of working in this industry with your music?
The pros were like being able to, the ability to travel, and I think for people who like, because I used to like be a busker, right? So like I didn't know where like how much money I was going to earn that month ever. I had a rough idea, but it's to like, I guess one pro is that for about 6 months or 4 months what you're going to be earning.
I'd say that's one of the main pros for me. Like we were doing gigs here and there with different agents and different companies and stuff. And I would have a rough idea, I would have some gigs mapped out, but I was always on the phone booking gigs. I was always trying to get my next one, like reminding agents that I exist. I was always trying to get paid, when payments late and stuff like that. And you're chasing
down like 4 different agents.
Can I have my £75, please?
Yeah.
It's like, I think just knowing that for 6 months you're paid for, you're fine, and you can kind of relax. And I didn't realize how much time I spent actually trying to get my gigs until I didn't have to do it anymore. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I don't have anything to do right now. And I would be, that kind of job as well, like they don't necessarily work working hours. So you'll be on your phone all hours of the day trying to book gigs. Like I would come home for the weekend and I would end up spending half of it on my computer, like emailing people, because it just takes a lot of admin hours.
Yeah. So on the flip side of that, what are some of the biggest challenges of working in that?
So one challenge for like ships specifically is seasickness.
For real? Oh my God.
If you are a queasy person, just I don't know.
Maybe not for you.
Maybe try hotels first.
Yeah. I would say it got rockier than I thought on those ferries. I don't really think it was going to be that bad. But there was one night where we were like, and I don't think I even realized how rocky it was, because your perspective is warped. So you're focusing on the room, but the whole ship is going like this. And our mic stand just started like going. And I was like, oh, shit.
You can't see this, but I'm like rocking, like fully rocking. You can't drink sometimes. So if that's important to you, if you like to drink alcohol, that's something that you kind of have to not do for sometimes.
Yeah. If you're on a ship, I would say that's more common.
Yeah.
But more for ferries, I think, actually. It seemed like the cruise ships weren't as bothered. I'd say that in also on a ship, you, depending on the times, like I think with the cruises again, it seemed like a better gig to me in terms of like you get to get off the ship more, because with the ferries again, like you kind of stuck on there. Like we had like an hour window a day where we could get off, and then there was one day a week where we were docked in. Oh no, there were 2 days a week where we were docked, right? And one was in England, one was in France.
Yeah, so not depending on the contract, I guess, maybe not loads of opportunities to be outside.
Yeah.
So we were prepared for this lockdown.
You had some practice.
And then I think the other thing with the it is just like food. So if you have a lot of food requirements or like allergies and stuff, I'd say it's not that easy to deal with that.
I think to summarize, you kind of have to give up control of some of the things some of the comforts that you have at home.
That's a better way.
Yeah. Like you might be in a different country and they might not necessarily have they might not have if you're celiac, they might not have a gluten-free version of your favorite food, for example.
Yeah.
What would kind of like your day-to-day routine be? How many times would you be expected to perform, and how long would your sets be?
So anywhere from 2 sets a day to 5.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So sometimes, because I did this on my own first over in Sweden, and it was every single day, and it was 5 sets a day. So you would start at like 7 o'clock or 6 or something, and then go till literally midnight. So this is why you need so many songs. for the people, but also for you. Like, I got so bored of just singing. Like, my favorite set became like my least favorite.
Yeah.
If it's a little bit quieter, it might be more like just an evening. You do like an evening show, and there's like things on. Like other entertainment, and then you're like part of the head. The lineup, if you know what I mean.
It's just such an unknown world for so many performers, but it's something that I think a lot of people see as a really viable option to, as you said, like make a consistent living. But it's really nice to hear from someone who's actually done it, so that, yeah, just to get an idea if it is something that people want to try or not once things kind of open up again.
Hello.
It's your Artwork Podcast hosts, briefly interrupting this episode. We hope you're enjoying this conversation and feeling really inspired by this story.
We'd just like to remind you that the Artwork Podcast is a completely independent project, and we'd really appreciate your help in spreading the word. You can do that by subscribing, leaving a comment or a review, and sharing the podcast with your friends.
You can also support the podcast through our tip jar on Patreon. If you believe in this project and you feel there's value in sharing these stories, a small contribution will help us keep going. You can choose to give a monthly or a single donation, and there are some special little rewards in there for you too.
And we'd like to invite you to take part in the artwork conversation by joining our Artwork Community Facebook group. There, you will be able to connect with the artist we featured on the podcast and share your journey with like-minded creatives.
Let's get back to the conversation. Let's start talking about your new project, because you guys have had a massive change recently, and you've totally rebranded yourselves as Bitter Trick. And we just can't wait to hear about all these revelations you've had personally and as artists, and that's led you to this point of what you're writing and how you feel in your day-to-day life as performers.
You went from being Katharina, which was this like character on stage, to being Bitter Trick, which you describe as a lot more honest with the songs and with your performance. Like, what was the moment when you were like, okay, Katharina, we're going to close that door. Let's be more honest with our music now. Was there a specific moment and what made you make that decision?
I think it was sort of a transition, and it's kind of tied in with what was going on in our life, which we talked about in terms of like leaving Leeds and our situation there and going to work abroad. I think that we had sort of over time, we just had less and less time to work on this project, and so we hadn't really written a whole lot of new songs. We hadn't really started much that was new. We hadn't went to any gigs for a while. Everything had kind of tapered off. Our social media had completely kind of died a death. And so I think when we went away, it was this kind of fresh start for everything. And one of the main reasons, like we said, that we went was so that we'd have time to work on our project. So it was kind of an opportunity to reassess what we were doing. And like you said earlier, in terms of like, it's really nice to be able to look back on what you've done already. And I think it's so important at every stage of when you're kind of trying to get somewhere, you have this like big, seemingly unreachable goal. At every stage, I think it's so important to evaluate where you're at and what you've done and what worked, what didn't, and what we do moving forward. And I think, like I said earlier, one of the big things that didn't really work for me was this like push and pull between the character and what was going on with me. And that was one of the things that I wanted to go in with. And I think naturally writing, because we hadn't got an opportunity to write for so long, I had a lot of like stuff that kind of just naturally came out because it's almost like therapy writing about stuff.
We had stuff to say.
Yeah.
I think like we were, obviously when we first met, we were a little bit younger, and like our life literally was like a party. Like that's all we had to say. It was like, let's have a party. That was literally the vibe. And so it felt kind of dishonest to write songs back then about, anything else, because there wasn't really anything else going on. But then since then, I think we had a lot of space. And then I think with the knowledge that we were having a fresh start, we kind of decided to have a fresh start. we like we said earlier, we were doing a very specific sound earlier. It was very like, synth pop revival, and it was like electronic, and that was kind of what we were doing. And then because we agreed on a fresh start, it gave us the opportunity to kind of just write whatever. So we'd write a piano song, or we'd get the acoustic guitars out, or we just, a cappella, just whatever, get some like electric guitar going. Like we can both play a few different instruments, and we just, started experimenting. I think that kind of was like, well, how's this going to work with Katarina?
Yeah.
How's all this, how is this going to work, with Katarina? And then it was like, well, it doesn't have to, does it?
Yeah. And I think it's really freeing when we came to that conclusion, because it's like you said it earlier, Brie, I think like you can feel a little bit trapped in this thing that you've made for yourself. And it's like, oh, I mean, from the beginning, we were trying to be conscious of an audience and who we were aiming this at, and all of these kind of more commercial considerations for it. But by this point, I was like, I think we just need to write something and release something, because we haven't done that in so long. Like we just need to write something. And so what came out was naturally just a lot more honest. And I've really enjoyed so far, like just, I don't know, just being generally more honest with everything, because it makes doing this all ourselves a lot easier to do.
You've just released a single called Say No, which I've been listening to quite a bit because it's such an anthem.
Thank you.
And can you tell us about this song? It's just been played on BBC Introducing in Lincolnshire, and it's got a really amazing message to it. And I'd love to hear where the inspiration for this song came from and what you hope people can like take from this song.
So I think in the beginning, when we were first writing this, it actually felt like a little bit of a kind of release, like just purely the say no part of it, like that lyric and that feel was, we started writing it when we were working on Ferries, and we had just left this life behind, and I had a lot of like questions from my family, like, what are you doing, for example? And I had actually, just before we left, been offered a full-time job at the part-time job that I was working at this office, and my parents were like, you should take that's the thing to do. And I was like,
no,
I don't want. I was like, no. I said no. So I think that this, like, it felt like what we were doing was what we were supposed to do, and after that I was like, no, it doesn't make any sense. Like you have to carve your own path and do what you need to do. 'Cause everything's so old here. Why don't you say no? Oh, and tearing down the walls. Oh no, you got to say no. Breaking all the locks that shut you in. Drive, watching the sunset, breeze at your back sets you in a spin. Nothing can stop you now. Feet on concrete, stop stars for city lights. Blood pumping, start fire, start the car. Throwing what you need, tell me where you wanna be. Leave it all behind, driving to the dark, we could cross the sea. 'Cause everything's so old here. Why don't you say no? Oh, we're tearing down the walls. Oh no, you got to say no. Breaking all the locks that shut you in. Why don't you say no? You got to say no. Breaking all the locks that shut you in. I think what it evolved into was really this reflection of our kind of growth, and just learning to, I don't know, speak out about things that we really care about, because that's something that's come a lot with the last year for me as well. Like it's been brought home to me what my core values are and how much I care about those. And there have been a lot of events, especially this last year, that have prompted me to like speak out in a way that I literally never did before. I've always been quite a reserved person and quite like polite in that way, but it was like people saying things, whether it's, someone who is a friend or a relation or someone random, and it's like I have to say something. I can't not say something.
Yeah. So it's, for me, it's about having the strength to stick up for what you believe in, and I think that for both of us as people, like we're peacemakers. So I think when you are that way, you kind of bend your will around people just for the short term, like safety and peace. And if someone says something that's a little bit over the line, you kind of let it lie, because it's like, well, I don't want to get in an argument, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
But then what you do gradually is you just wear away all of your morals and your values. If you allow to be like, if you allow yourself to be like pushed around a little bit too much.
That's it.
And I think we've changed in the way that, like, I feel so much more complete for just having a slightly different approach to life, and kind of more of a zero tolerance approach to like the things that matter to me.
Yeah, and I think more
Mm.
proactive. It's recognizing like a lot of things are out of our control, and I think that's easy to latch onto, but there are still things that are within our control in our everyday lives, and we have the opportunity to, like, do the right thing when you can. And it's, I think that an actual, like, this is sort of a sidetrack but sort of not, like, it's related. The first time in my life maybe that I've realized like how strong my values are was when we were in Thailand, and there were these like kittens that sort of got abandoned because there were dogs on this farm, there were cats. Their mum cat got sort of killed by the dog. It's all a bit harrowing. And then one of the kittens also got killed by the dog. And I got to this point where I was like, I can't like watch this happen. And I spent a good few months like emailing charities and trying to find places that would take these cats away, and trying to get them like vet appointments and stuff so they could get vaccinated. And in the end, I managed to get them adopted
By a lovely Australian lady.
a lovely Australian lady.
That's amazing.
It was a goal that I didn't know that I had. And it was just one of those moments where I was like, am I just going to watch this happen and be upset by it, or am I going to do something?
Yeah, you could have easily just been like, oh, well, I'm in a different country, there's not really anything I can do about that. And then obviously they would have died. And then it's like, oh, that was sad, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then, but it's, I think, yeah, the point is, right, that you made a choice.
I made a choice, yeah. And it's like when something, it was a real test of strength, because it's like when something is actually on your doorstep, do you do something about it? And it's like, the answer was yes, but I didn't know that about myself until it came up. I think I have core principles and they're really important to me, and I actually have a lot of like things to say.
That's a really exciting awakening in an artist, when you realize that the things that are going through your head and the experiences that you're having and the way that you see the world, you can turn that into something that people will consume, and maybe somehow spread an idea, or spread your values, and educate or make other people aware about really big issues, or little smaller issues, in a way that they can understand it emotionally, rather than just like reading facts or listening to the news, or I feel like that's our real privilege as artists, is that we can kind of reflect aspects of the world back to people in a way that they can emotionally understand and
and digest as well, like understand.
Yes. That is really amazing, and so cool that you've been able to like identify what your core values are. I think that I want to go now and sit down after this conversation and like think about what my core values are. But it is the climate in today's world now, where we do need to know. We need to know now where we stand on things. We can't the time of like, I don't know, I haven't really thought about it, it's over.
Yeah.
I know.
And I think that I think there's something about like, because obviously, you know, that's kind of what we, you know, that's how we set out with the song. And then I think just as time's gone on, its message has kind of just rung out a little bit louder every few months.
Definitely.
Like we've had this song for about a year and a half, right?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
But yeah, this just felt like a really good time to release it.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, like if we can like spread that kind of awareness of knowing who you are and knowing that you can make a difference in your everyday life, that's really important.
Yeah.
You guys are a couple, you work together as a music duo, you write together. Like, how do you balance that? How do you draw lines between this is when we're working, this is when we're chilling, and like, is there a line there, and how have you put that in place?
Yeah, so we have had to do that because it's like, and I would, you know, if anyone else is in this kind of situation where you're kind of, you know, working or creating art with someone that you're in a relationship with, I would say that if you don't do this, it's kind of doomed. Like, because I feel like definitely it eats up so much of your like soul. Like having the work-life balance is so important, and we've got better at it over time. But yeah, I think it's like we never used to be very good at just like at keeping boundaries, and we'd just be like, I don't know, doing normal things like at a restaurant, and we'd start talking about songs and we start talking about like work, and then it kind of bums you out. It like just ruins it's not very romantic.
Well,
it
does as well, because
yeah,
I think it's important to have a safe space for your business and a safe space for your personal life. So in business, and I term that loosely, that's anything you're working on together, you need to be able to have a professional disagreement, or you know, like a spirited discussion or like disagreement about something, without it reflecting at all on your personal life, because that's a separate thing. And I don't think I even realized this until more recently. Like we've been doing this for a couple of years and we didn't really know any different. We kind of started working together and dating right at the same time. But I suddenly sat down after a gig one time, and we sat down together and we had a drink, and I was like, I feel like I haven't seen you all week, and I've been with you working all week, but it's so different. It's like we're working together, that's one thing, and we're doing like drinking cocktails together, that's another thing. And it is so important, and we've got so much better at it over time. And like you said, and I think more recently especially, what's helped me at least is actually setting a better timetable for ourselves, where we've carved out time that we spend together. And some of that time is just in the morning when we get up and we do a workout or whatever, and eat breakfast together, and we go for a walk together, and then we start work, and that's like a separate thing.
Anything like work related, it's like banned.
Yeah.
Until like 9 o'clock in the morning starts.
Yeah.
And then it's like, you know, like put it on your to-do list. You know, like at night, it's like, oh, can you send? Because we do fun work, which is this, you know, our music project. We do other work that's like more just for money, you know. So it's like, oh, dude, you know, can you forward me that email about? No. Put it on the to-do list. Like we're watching How I Met Your Mother now. So exactly. Put it on the to-do list, send it over. Yeah. And I think it's being able to, like, we've grown into, I think I'm very fortunate that I've got someone who's mature enough to kind of be able to sort of, you know, have a spirited, heated discussion. Like, I love you and I respect you. You're wrong. And what you said is completely stupid. I'm not fragile enough that I'm gonna like get upset and like, well, that's it, it's over because we have different views on something, or on this snare sound. Yeah, that's silly. Like I think it's just really important to like, yeah, I think separation is the most important thing. And then just, I don't know, yeah, just also because I think it's hard sometimes, especially in this culture of like, you know, like you have to grind like every day, all day, grinding. And especially when you do that together, it's like, that's not possible. That's not real. It's not true. Like grind 9 till 5 and then chill the fuck out. Because
it's no good for either of you, and especially if you're working together, you don't have a personal relationship if you're just working together all the time. Like that's, it's
I would
different.
say this applies to individuals as well. Like,
Yeah, definitely.
if you are a solo artist and you are working on your project, I think there's this vibe, which is that you should be working all the time and that's how you make it. But if you don't allow yourself time for just self-care and just to be in your own space, and like you're not defined by your like career, you know, you're a person as well. Like, you're an artist, but you're a person. And I think it's important to give that person time to do the things that you enjoy and just like, you know, sit and have a cup of tea and just listen to music or whatever you like to
Yeah,
do.
definitely.
Yeah, that's something I've definitely worked on a lot last year, is like not being defined by my art anymore and by what I do, and then actually setting myself like boundaries where I don't do anything remotely work related on a Sunday. Like, Sundays are my day to chill, and in the evenings, like, I might make a bit of jewelry and do the fun parts, but I'm not getting out my laptop. I'm not doing emails like past 5-6 o'clock, because I really set myself those boundaries where, like, this is my work time, this is my chill time, and they're separate. And it has literally changed my life to have that boundary in place just for me. Yeah, I think it's so important. I could talk about it all day, honestly.
Because I was listening to your a previous episode that you did with Foxanne. You were talking about like monetizing everything you do, like the difficulty with trying to like separate art things that you do for fun and art things that you do for, you know, money or for, you know, for your ultimate goal. And I also find it really hard to switch off the kind of entrepreneurial brain and just do things for fun sometimes. I think that's important to like sometimes just going and like, because we love what we do, right? That's why we do it. But I think that's why it's so important to set boundaries, because it's like you could easily do it all day, but it's not going to do any good for you.
You could do it for a bit.
Yeah, but then you burn out, you get tired, you know, and then you lose your love for it. Like, that is what happened with me in music. I just did it too much for too long and just like rammed myself into the ground like 100 miles an hour, and it made me now be like, oh, don't want to do that anymore.
I used to get really like anxiety from like, I don't know, certain like, you know me, you know, I'm passionate about my little toys and my electronic synths and stuff. I used to get anxiety about getting them out and like going to the rehearsal room because I'd be like, oh, something's going to break, I'm going to have to figure this out. And it's because when I came home, I'd continue and I'd just be working on it all night. And I associated my music, which is what I loved, but I actually began to associate it with the stress and like being tired.
You do better work when you're well rested.
Oh my God, 100%. Literally, that is, it's so obvious, but you forget it when you're in that zone of like, I'm loving what I'm doing, I'm doing what I love. And then when you actually take a couple of weeks or a couple of months, you know, however much time you need off, like, you come back with so much more energy and ideas and just everything.
I really enjoyed having a couple of weeks off for Christmas. It's the first 2 full weeks off of everything that I think I've probably ever had since I was at uni, maybe. But I reset, I was at 0, I was fine every day, and I didn't recognize this feeling of just being fine every day, you know? And I didn't feel stressed, I didn't feel like tired or hungry, or like, I was just fine, and I was just going with my instincts, my human instincts to eat and you know, sleep, and I was really enjoying just being okay. And I was like, okay, this year I'm not going to go right back in and do that to myself again, and stress myself out. I'm going to continue to feel fine because I would like to, and just being more instinctive with what you do as well. Like, I realized that I would ignore when I was like hungry. I wouldn't even realize, and I'd be starving, and then we'd have a huge argument about some song because I'd be really hungry and grumpy.
We'd have a huge argument about going to the shops because we'd like stress ourselves out to the point where we just, you know, you get like angsty, and you're like hungry. Like, I'm a hangry.
We're both very hungry, and
like, we hadn't eaten yet because we'd like ignored our timetable and it's like, oh, it's 7, but we need to keep working or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we just ended up shouting about like, but Co-op's closer. You need to go to Tesco. No, but Tesco has more choice. And
The biggest argument we've had in the last year was about vegetable stock. And everybody in the house was like hiding because we were having this massive row in the
like
kitchen.
a heated argument.
Like a huge
about
argument.
vegetable stock.
And it's just insane. Like you gotta give yourself that rest. You gotta be instinctive. You gotta listen to yourself when you're hungry and when you're tired, and just like take it from there, build from the ground up, because otherwise you're not going to do any good work.
And give yourself a break as well.
Give yourself a break.
It's like and give each other a break. So it's like give yourself a break, because it's like, you're working on this thing and it's your art and it's your music and it's what you love to do and you just put a lot of effort into it. And if something goes wrong, it's okay. It's just one of the many things that you're going to do on your journey as an artist. So just give yourself a break.
I feel like a lot of us have kind of transitioned into this new mindset of like, I need to be okay to be able to create and do this sustainably. And one of the things you said in your email is that you are both really trying to release music and make music a sustainable and a healthy part of your life. And I just think that is such a great goal, such an amazing thing to work towards. And I feel like you've just given us so many ideas of how we can do that. I had so many questions about these topics, but I feel like you've just smashed it in one go.
In terms of like, you kind of got to look after you, the person, first, because without you, the person, there is no you, the artist. But I feel like that, like, I guess this is time for the less sexy bit, which is like, you got to go and like, you got to be earning money, like you got to be like, you've got to be exercising and eating right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's like, not as, like, I think we focus on where we want to be, like, oh, we want to be playing at this festival and this is our brand and it's like, this is our identity. But it's like, what happened to us before was we had a really focused brand and everything, but we couldn't sustain it because we didn't have the money to be able to like keep buying the stage makeup or whatever. I don't know, that's something that's just really worked. It's just like, being smart with all aspects of normal life as well.
There's certain things that I want us to be able to do as well as a couple. Like, I think, growing as people and being able to go on holiday sometimes and do stuff like that was also important to me. And I think that's okay. I think that sometimes it feels like there's a bit of shame around wanting to have money at this point in your life when you're trying to make a dream work. But actually, I was like, I do want money. Like, I know that money doesn't buy happiness, but it will buy me a new synth or, a music video or a holiday.
A new synth is happiness.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I think
definitely.
Basically, like for us, we work to earn money so that we can have money to do our project.
Yeah.
But I think you could look at that and be like, oh, well, they've got jobs, so it means that they're giving up on the dream.
Yeah. Oh, I resonate with that.
You can have both.
Yeah, I really resonate with that. I felt like when I kind of stopped doing music as my job, I felt like I'm giving up. I'm a failure. I didn't make it work. Because I was always like, oh yeah, busking and like doing my music was my whole job. It was everything. And then when I decided to walk away from that, I felt like, oh, I'm giving up and selling out and all of those things. I felt that so much, and that was what was stopping me from. I don't know. It stopped me for a long while. I couldn't get over that block in my mind of I'm a failure because music isn't my full-time job anymore. When that is so not true. If I'm not happy as a person, and didn't even know who I was as a person, I hadn't taken the time to find out who I was outside of that. It's so important.
That's really important. And I would bring in a theme here as well that we've been talking about a lot recently, which I've started to call it flowchart decision making. And I'm not asking anyone to draw a flowchart, but I feel like treating things like that in your head is really important sometimes, especially when you're making a decision that does have emotional like triggers for you. So it's like, am I happy where I am? No. Like, is this making me happy? No. shall I find something else then? Yes. Okay. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
like it's as simple as that,
you have to-
regardless of
yeah.
what anyone else says or what you think you should be doing. Because it's like that's the emotional bit where you
Exactly.
make choices based on what you feel, but actually it's complete bonkers.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't make any sense. It's like,
No.
well, I have to do this, otherwise I'm losing my integrity. And it's like, why? Who says?
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's treating things logically that are emotional, which sounds backwards, but it's like if you have a strong feeling that you need to move on from something, or that you're having some resistance with what you're doing, like you said, like you were thinking, oh, I need to move on, but I can't, or then you need to sit down with it and be like, okay, well, what isn't working, and evaluate it and just treat it logically, because I think that's a really important thing to learn, is just kind of moving through things in a way that makes sense to you and what you feel.
There have definitely been times in my life where I've just been doing my creative projects because that's kind of what I set out to do, and I need to make it work. But yeah, at what point do we actually ask ourselves if we're still happy doing that? And I think that's why I'm so proud of Poppy for being able to transition into doing something different. It's so great that you guys have been able to rebrand your music project into something that is more aligned with what you want.
And I think also that when you say that you're not enjoying it, it's like, I also sometimes feel like, oh, it doesn't mean I wasn't enjoying it the whole time. Like I at the time I thought I was enjoying myself, but then looking back, I realized actually, or even just looking forward, that's not what I want to do anymore.
Yeah. But that's interesting as well, because I've been reading this book that I've been like chewing your ear off about. I've been reading a book and basically regurgitating it back to Marcus because I found it also interesting. What's
it called?
It's called Grit, and it's by Angela Duckworth. I highly recommend it. It's about the qualities needed to become really successful at what you do. And she breaks it down in such a logical, like, she's a psychologist, so she breaks it down in such a logical way from all these studies and all these interviews and stuff. And it's very, very interesting read. But apart from anything else, it's helped me realize that, like, so far, I'm like halfway through the book, and I feel like there's a lot of things that have actually really validated my process and what I'm doing. And obviously things that have made me realize, oh yeah, I should definitely be doing that. But it sort of breaks down into key characteristics, and there's this one bit where she's talking about goal setting and where you're at versus where you want to be. And the basic point of the book quite early on is that the main characteristic that you need to be successful is grit, which is actually just persistence and being passionate about something and keeping going. But it's more than that. I recommend you read it, but there's this one bit where she's breaking down goals and a way to set goals. And it's finding this one main thing that you're looking towards professionally or, personally. And then moving down into these steps that you take to get to the top point. So you have like your lower level stuff, which is literally things you do every day in order to work towards bigger goals, and then bigger goals, and ultimately your main goal. And I thought it was really interesting because she said that, I was thinking of grit as this, like, you never give up and you absolutely keep going no matter what. But it was like some of the grittiest people have sidestepped some of those smaller goals, and they've been like, no, this isn't the way to get there. I'm going to give up on that. Or like, and it also rings true with dealing with rejection. It's like, you don't get this smaller goal because it's in the hands of someone else. They don't want to give it to you. And so you sidestep and you do something else, you find something else.
To get to that goal, whichever way.
Yeah. So it's really less about like committing to all these smaller things that you're doing every day. And like, if you have a specific job within your main kind of goal that you're doing, and you think that's the way to get there, remember that there's different ways to get to the top. And so if you're not happy doing what you're doing, you can sidestep, you can find another way of getting there, and that's okay too. And really the grit is about just keeping going on that top goal, regardless of how messy this journey is.
Yes. I think that's such an important thing, that like, we don't know how we're going to get there, and we need to be able to adapt to those different things and not feel like we're failing if we don't necessarily take the route that we expect to take. So you have a new EP coming up. What would you like to tell us about this incredible music project that you're about to release?
So this EP is called Climb, and it's a real like story of our personal growth recently, which has been a lot of the themes here. You know, it's been really good to write about things that resonate with us a lot, and you should, hope to see that in the next few months.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it should be out in the next, I don't know. I'm not going to say.
Soon.
But we have, we've been enjoying doing everything completely DIY. This is literally been born from dealing with others and being so disappointed and so utterly disrespected.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what have you done to my baby? People who just aren't listening to your vision and not giving it the time and respect that it deserves. So,
or just not even sending you the product that you paid for.
Yeah. So so we've enjoyed we committed to doing this completely DIY. So that means all of that, we've done our own release plan, our own branding and photography, videos, and
we learned animation to do that.
Yeah, we learned a bit of animation to do the Say No video, and
wow,
it's just been a real nice opportunity. Obviously, it helps that we're kind of forced to be inside, so there's less distractions. But it's been a real journey making this EP. So I'm really looking forward to kind of letting you all hear that soon. For us, this has all been about building up again, because obviously when we did Katarina, the big focus was on live gigs, and we really got our we figured it out in terms of what we wanted for our live gigs, and we ended up doing quite a lot of gigs, and we played at some of the nice venues in Leeds, like the Brood and I don't know, Hedgerow House, and
Wardrobe.
The Wardrobe, and we got around the sort of gig scene there. So we kind of, in terms of figuring that out, as soon as things open, we're ready, to just get out there and do a show again. But this for us has been really about trying to grow online.
Yeah.
So the focus this time around has been on, building a Spotify following. We've seen our numbers grow. We've seen a really nice response from the last two singles. And sort of trying to get some press, trying to get some sort of, build and build an audience. And it's been nice to see the beginnings of that.
Yeah.
So
and I think I would say that's a point for adapting as well. Obviously, we're all at the moment as artists and performers stuck inside, not being able to perform, and so I think it is a good opportunity to grow in other areas and write songs and really focus on other areas of your artistry.
Every time we do a podcast, our last question is, do you have any advice and I feel like most of the conversation has just been packed with ideas and tips and advice for artists who are listening. Yeah, so much wisdom. But is there anything specific that you guys have been holding on to lately that's been helping you keep going, that you feel would be useful for other artists or for people who are in a similar position to you?
Let's do one each. Yeah. You go first.
Oh, okay. I think I would say, and this isn't, again, it's the non-sexy part of self-care and looking after yourself, but write yourself a timetable. Do it. Literally write it down on paper if you're that kind of person like me, or put it in your phone. Block out the time that you're going to spend on different things. Break it down into tasks. Have a to-do list. Put it into your days. Don't overwhelm yourself with things to do. Put slightly less in than you think you'll get done, because most of the time what I think I will get done is too many things. So I just really, really can't impress enough how much organization like that helps, not just to get things done, But to put your mind at rest, like I'll sit at night, put anything on my to-do list that needs to go on, and then I can close my diary and go to sleep peacefully because I know that things are taken care of. And likewise, assigning things to days, it's like, I haven't done this yet. You could get panicked about it. But if you've put it on a day, you know it's going to happen. And it's like, cool, I don't have to worry about that thing. And it feels like you shouldn't do that with art sometimes. It feels like you should be like going with the flow and just doing whatever, whenever. But I personally, what works for me is like setting boundaries, setting time, setting goals, and setting reasonable deadlines for yourself.
So my piece of advice would be, especially for musicians, but I guess that applies to everyone, do everything in advance. Everything. There's something like, we post on social media like all the time, but half of the stuff is scheduled. We sit down and we do it, and it's already scheduled to come out. We've planned it. Some of it we'll take photos, but we'll post them from bed in our pajamas because it's too much to ask to be on all the time. So do everything in advance, like prepare for the next round of posts or the next release. Like, don't write a song and then go on Facebook and say, hey, got a new song coming out soon, because that puts you under pressure to have to do it, and then you have to then apologize and say, hey guys, sorry, it's late, and then it's a lot easier on yourself if you kind of like, cool, well, I've got a song, I'm going to release it, I don't know, in 4 weeks, and then that gives me 4 weeks to kind of contact playlisters, to contact blogs, contact the Artwork podcast, make some momentum. It gives you time, because I think people see, when you look on Instagram, for example, you just see all these people just killing it, just crushing it, just all these likes and all these amazing looking photos, but it's like they're not literally doing it every single day. I mean, they might be, if you're like an influencer and that's literally what you do for a job, then sure. But for many of us, we don't have that luxury of being able to be on all the time. So you can make it work by being organized.
I agree.
I'm going to put that in my diary right now. Social media plan for upcoming release. Thank you so much for such a wonderful chat. It's just been so good to see and hear the process that you've been going through, and I'm really excited for you to be releasing music that you feel really connected to and really like this is what you want to say. I can't imagine there's anything more satisfying than that. So I'm really pumped that you guys have discovered and like took the risk to rebrand, and it's just well done.
Guys, thanks for having us on. It's been really nice.
Yeah, it's been really nice.
Oh, it's been so good to catch up. Like, it's just been far too long, so I'm really glad.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode.
If you'd like to be a part of the Artwork conversation, we would love to invite you to join our Artwork Community Facebook group, where you can connect with the artists we've featured on the podcast and share your journey with a like-minded community. You can find the link in the show notes, as well as all the links to today's artist.
If you've enjoyed this episode, we'd really appreciate it if you would take the time to subscribe to and review it so that more people can find us in the future. Your comments can help us pop up on more people's suggested podcasts, helping our artists' stories reach a wider audience.
Podcasts are best spread by word of mouth, so if you know people who might enjoy this episode or the Artwork podcast as a whole, we would love it if you told them all about it. And if you'd like to financially support this project, you can now do that on Patreon, where you can choose the amount you'd like to give us for lots of fun rewards.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at art.workconversation.
And tune in next week for another inspiring episode.
Bye!